2024, where I worked with the Community and Economic Development team and the mayor to represent the city of Phoenix. It was not a leisurely event. Chris warned me that I would be on my feet for 12 hours a day, and I can confirm that she underestimated that time. It was closer to 16 hours. We met with CEOs and potential partners from around the world, and it was a very busy and successful experience. The life sciences industry in Phoenix is hot and growing. One of the highlights was hearing about one of our local companies who is focusing their research on the cancer vaccine. Looking forward to the life-changing developments that we will see come out of our biosciences core here in Phoenix. Next slide, please. I wanted to share just a few highlights of how we celebrated 602 Day in District 8. I was honored to host the 602 celebration in South Phoenix on 24th Street and Broadway. We spent the morning with incredible music, resources, and food to celebrate the spirit of Phoenix. The residents of District 8 really showed up and showed out for the first City of Phoenix 602 Day. Next slide. I want to thank the over 15 city and community resources tabling and offering services such as blood pressure and glucose checks. We also had a robust farmers market where fresh produce and vegetable boxes were made available to the community. Finally, we enjoyed the dance performances from local youth groups in the area that included Mexican folk dance and step team dance, and dined on the diverse, delicious food offered from neighborhood food vendors. Next slide. I also want to thank all of the city staff who volunteered, who offered their support on this event with us and came out to provide information to residents in the South Phoenix area. Especially thank you, Zach Wallace, his team of volunteers, and the Neighborhood Services Department. I also want to thank the residents that came out in the morning heat to celebrate our city. Next slide. The summer festivities are not quite finished yet. We look forward to the District 8 pool party this Saturday, June 15th from noon to 2 at El Prado Park on 19th Avenue and Alta Vista Road. We invite District 8 residents to come out and escape the day's heat with some pool time, food, and games. Next slide. That is all I have. As always, do not hesitate to reach out if you need help with any city services or notice an issue in your neighborhood. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any additional updates? Vice Mayor.
Just very quickly, I wanted to congratulate Councilwoman Ann O'Brien. She won the Greater Phoenix Chamber of Commerce Award last week, the Sentinel Award. I won that a few years ago. It's quite an honor. Congratulations.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Any additional updates? All right, then we will go to item 1 and welcome our Planning and Development team. We've been working, this was an item of importance to the entire council and to our entire city. We want to make sure that whether you're updating your home or building new homes for our community, that there's the best process possible. Every council member has worked on this, but Vice Mayor has been particularly involved, and I'll turn to her to introduce item 1.
Thank you, Mayor. As we all know, I used to be the Planning and Development Director many years ago, and I've, of course, retired along with a lot of other great employees of planning and development, and we have a whole new staff out there. Some I know, some I don't, but I'm one of those dinosaurs, and I get to call myself that, but you don't get to, Josh. But recognizing that a lot of the senior staff left about the same time I did, Alan and Josh were in charge of a relatively new but very smart staff, but still maybe not as seasoned as some of us old dinosaurs. And at the same time along came the pandemic. And so the planning department lost staff, and you were having a hard time recruiting staff. You were competing with the private sector. And during the pandemic, the permits didn't stop. And I suspect a lot of people sat at home and thought, I need to remodel my house. I think I'll go get a permit and do that. So they continued to be very busy. And because of that, we started getting some complaints about the level of service and how long things were taking. And so I had the opportunity to talk to the planning staff. And it's not just the planning staff that does development. It's also streets, transportation, and water services. and ask them to maybe look at processes. Because when I was the director, we went through a pretty aggressive process improvement and procedure, and we came up with a lot of great ideas. And so I asked Josh to maybe take a look at that. And I know other council members were also talking to the planning staff as well. Overall, you guys do a terrific job, but I do think it's important that we continue to look at ways we can improve our level of service. It doesn't matter, it's just in the planning department, but the entire department. And so, much to the credit of Josh Bednarik and his staff, they stepped up and they started a great process and reached out to the development community and to neighborhoods that are also very deeply involved in planning and development. And I think they've come up with some really good suggestions, but I also think it's a start. And one of the most important things that Josh did say to me is, Deborah, we want to make this a yearly process. We want to stay engaged with our customers. And so that I really appreciate. Mayor, I've had a chance to look at it. I think other council members have also had a chance to look at some of their preliminary recommendations, and so I'm very excited for the presentation today. Again, I really want to thank development for stepping up, as well as other departments, that water and streets. So with that, thank you, Mayor.
Fabulous. We will turn it over to our Deputy City Manager, Ellen Stevenson, and our Planning and Development Director, Josh Bednarik.
Thank you, Mayor and Vice Mayor. As you stated, we're here to discuss the Planning and Development Department process improvements. These improvements help facilitate the construction of new buildings for employment opportunities, restaurants and retail establishments for city residents, along with new homes and apartments for residents to live in. The Planning and Development Department has been a leader in development over the past several years and will continue to build on the strengths of providing the highest level of service while continuously looking for ways to improve that service and strengthening our partnerships with allied development and construction professionals to continue building a great city. Collectively, these components, combined with a multimodal transportation system, quality parks and open space, along with thoughtful leadership of the mayor and city council to balance the business aspects of the city with creating high-wage, high-quality jobs, excellent neighborhoods, and a vast array of support services, will continue to allow Phoenix to flourish in a highly competitive 21st century. Before we jump into the actual presentation items, Josh is going to cover all of those. I do want to thank the mayor and council again for your leadership. You all have been very gracious with your time and energy. I know you get a lot of calls from folks that you represent and the stakeholders as well as residents with concerns, and we have listened to those and appreciate the time that you've all given us. I also want to thank private sector development partners. They're never shy about picking up the phone and calling you guys, as you know, or calling us and talking about things, letting us know their thoughts. But it's really that private sector investment that helps build the city at the end of the day. I do want to thank my colleagues in the city manager's office who help break silos surrounding new development projects all the time. And also grateful for the help of our partner departments who play a role in new development, but especially the streets, transportation, water services, and fire department for helping suggest ways to improve our processes along with helping to resolve development issues along the way. And finally, I do want to thank Josh for his incredible leadership of the Planning and Development Department and his executive team for their hard work day in and day out to strive for continuous improvements while looking for positive solutions all the time. With that, Josh, please proceed.
Thank you, Alan. Mayor, members of the City Council, I present to you with a great sense of appreciation for your leadership and the responsibilities I have in this role. I also want to reiterate my thanks to our development partners, our partner departments, and our PDD team members. I want to especially recognize the PDD management team who is with me today in the audience. They are a brilliant and dedicated group of leaders that I am privileged to have as part of the team, and I thank them for all that they do every day for the department and our city. Before we dive into what we've been working on, I want to take a moment to celebrate the beautiful, vibrant city we are preserving, shaping, and building together. Phoenix is the 5th largest city in the U.S. with more than 1.6 million residents, just over 800,000 employed residents, more than 658,000 residential units, with more added each day, 529 square miles in size, and a median age of 34.4 years. We are a big, booming, and young city. This growth will continue. Greater than 1.8 million residents by 2030, with just over 1 million employed residents and 700,000 housing units. helping to ensure that this growth occurs in alignment with the vision of our residents and you as our council for making sure that it's safe and sustainable is a large part of what we do every day in the department. We have a diverse and talented team of professionals in the department. We make maps, support dozens of boards and commissions, review plans, manage records, inspect buildings, and so much more. We have 488 team members across dozens of disciplines and supplement that with $8 million in on-call contracts for plan review and inspections each year. The Planning and Development Department, thanks to the incredible leadership of past directors, Vice Mayor Stark and Deputy City Manager Alan Stevenson, has a variety of innovative programs and processes to assist our customers. The self-certification program allows architects and engineers to quickly secure building permits by taking responsibility for code and ordinance compliance. The Ombudsman's Office provides one-on-one service for customers needing help getting started or navigating the process. Our recent partnership with Solar App has resulted in thousands of solar permits being issued in just 1 day of processing time. The Annual Facilities Program provides a dedicated team for plan review and inspections on large existing projects like our hospitals. Our Permit by Inspection program allows residents working on small projects to secure a building permit, in most instances in just 3 days. And our Shape Phoenix project is modernizing our entire application and permitting system, helping us be more efficient, nimble, and data-driven. The last 5 years have seen increased in levels of investment in Phoenix. Fiscal year 21-22 saw record numbers of permits and permit valuation. The last 2 years alone have seen close to $20 billion in investment just based on permit valuation. All that investment provides us an opportunity to serve. Just last year, we served more than 39,000 customers at our counters, issued more than 14,000 permits for residential development, and conducted more than 280,000 inspections, 97% of which were done within 24 hours. Thanks to the leadership of this council, the Planning and Development Department has worked with you, applicants, neighbors, the Planning Commission, and our 15 village planning committees to facilitate approval of hundreds of rezoning cases the last 5 years that have led to close to 60,000 approved, ready for plan review dwelling units. This is a tremendous accomplishment and one we should be extremely proud of as a city. Now, in addition to all the work that we do day in and day out for plan review, inspections, and rezoning, we're also hard at work on other projects like updates of the general plan, impact fee program, historic Phoenix plan, and Shape Phoenix Relays 3. We started off this process improvement effort in the fall of last year, having a good sense of where we needed to get better and had started to make some changes, but wanted to hear from our development partners and our team members. To that end, we held 4 customer listening sessions and 3 team member listening sessions. We started the conversation off with 2 big questions. What are we doing well, and what do we need to do to get better? And here's what we heard. From our customers, a desire to have a better idea of who does what in the department and who to contact instead of the management team. We heard that at times there can be inconsistency between what's approved by the plan reviewer and what will be accepted by our inspectors, and a desire to find more ways for us to collaborate and find solutions with our partner departments. We also heard from our customers that they'd like to see more opportunities for face-to-face interaction with our team members, that processing times for admin review should be an area of focus for us, and that our new team members need to be better equipped to make decisions instead of having to check with supervisors. From our team members, we heard that they would value more opportunities to cross-train with other department sections. They gave us some great ideas for process changes to eliminate overlapping reviews. They also expressed a desire to connect more with their colleagues in other divisions and better understand where they fit within the organization. So how are we responding and ultimately enhancing the service that we provide? We've emphasized the commitment to service as the defining element of the department's culture, a service with 3 core tenets: personal, seamless, and innovative. Our first step in helping manifest these 3 tenets this past year has been to 1, reorganize the department around our primary service areas to start finding efficiencies in our processes for not only our customers, but our team members as well. As an example, now all plan review functions are under one group from submittal to final reviews. Second, and in response to what we heard from our customers about not knowing where to start or who to engage when they need help, we have created an extensive set of photo-based org charts and team function charts that put faces to names, outline roles and responsibilities, and provide contact information for all of the department supervisors. As Alan mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we are grateful to have our partner departments collaborate with us on this effort, embracing the culture of service, attending our listening sessions, and contributing their own org charts as part of this expanded resource for our customers. Again, special thanks go to Chief Duran, Chief Walker, and especially Chief Kreis and the fire prevention team, Joe Brown, Brianna Velez, Eric Froberg, and the rest of the Street Transportation Department leadership team, and Troy Hayes, Brandy Kelso, Jim Swanson, and Dr. Max Wilson in the Water Services Department. In addition to our focus on a culture of service, the Process Improvement Report outlines dozens of initiatives we will start this year in response to what we heard from our customers and team members. We've organized these initiatives into 7 action areas, which include updates to our processes, modification to plan review and permit requirements, enhanced collaboration, deployment of new tools and resources, education for PD team members, education for customers and boards and commission members, and updates to our codes and ordinances. The following slides spotlight actions within many of these categories and how they align with the feedback from our customers and our team members. For updates to our processes, we will be rolling out a campaign this summer that reinforces that while appointments are the preferred and most efficient way to visit any of our fully staffed service counters in City Hall every day of the work week, we want to emphasize that walk-ins are welcome. And we will be transitioning our zoning adjustment hearings back to in-person format this fall. We will be working on reformatting of our pre-app and prelim reports to make them easier to read and highlight the most important information. We will be committing to efficiencies and maximum times for our pre-log and admin review processes, and outlining procedures for team leaders to work with technical leads and our partner departments to reduce the need for technical appeal hearings. We are looking forward to partnering with the Water Services Department on a re-examination of water meter install timelines, and we'll be identifying options for inspectors to administer changes in the fields to plans with sealed exhibits. For modifications to our plan review and permit requirements, the Plan Review Division will be developing a phase-out process for CSIT and certain wall permits, and will be simplifying site plan requirements for certain projects. For enhanced collaboration, we are committing to annual customer listening sessions, which will include smaller roundtable discussions with specific teams. We will produce an annual report with updates on the current set of initiatives and what we heard at the latest listening sessions, and share the report with you at this time next year. We'll be rolling out new tools and resources, including our new ADU process guide and website, working with the fire department on a new guide for high-rise development, and begin a comprehensive mapping effort of all of the department's processes to provide clarity, but also to identify additional efficiencies. We've already begun the development of a comprehensive customer service training program that will launch later this year, and want to identify additional time to allow for more opportunities for team member engagement and cross-training. We'll be expanding our library of training videos for customers and offering in-person training and developing videos and presentations for our 24 boards and commissions to reinforce their roles and responsibilities. We are committed to executing this action plan and look forward to continuing this conversation. In the report, we outline 3 areas we will explore to ensure we are positioned for success. The first is dedicated time for education for our team members, from customer service to cross-training. The second is moving forward with strategic efforts to secure adequate resources through implementation of a financial stability plan. The plan will focus on fee structures that support fair and full cost recovery and improve resiliency of the development fund. A more resilient structure will be better position the department to navigate changing economic cycles and shifts in development activity, while ensuring that we have the funds necessary to compensate and retain our excellent team members and to recruit highly skilled staff to fill critical vacancies. And last, we are going to partner with the Budget and Research Department on a staffing study to identify what our baseline staffing levels need to be. I want to reinforce our commitment to not only keep this conversation going, but to measure the progress we make. We highlight 4 areas to measure what we have outlined in the report is making the expected impact, from monthly turnaround times and statistical reports to secret shopper exercises and customer satisfaction surveys. Mayor and Council, I'll close by thanking you all again for not only your support for what we are doing, but for the high standards you set for the service we provide and the development that occurs within our city. We are just getting started and believe that embedding this improvement process into our service model will continue to make us a leader in the field and position us to provide outstanding customer experience for our customers, but for our team members as well. That concludes our presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for that important update. I think we'll begin with Councilman Robinson.
Thank you, Mayor. Josh, I'll start with this presentation is exceptional. I especially like this very last slide about keeping the conversation going, continuing the lead, and providing the best experience possible. I know you have a great team. You all are to be congratulated on it. But I want to echo what the Vice Mayor stated in her opening comments. This is great. The fact that you're willing to do this, move forward, I think it demonstrates your pursuit of, and you guys are probably already there at that level of excellence that the citizens of Phoenix really deserve. So my district, like all the other districts, we get challenging zoning issues, and you guys have to dive right into them. And I really appreciate the level of professionalism that you and your staff provide each and every time. I can't say enough good things about that. I'm really happy to see this process in place, and the fact that you are willing to do everything you can to continue to improve. So with that, thank you very much. Mayor, thank you for the time.
Councilwoman Hodge-Washington.
Thank you, Mayor. Like Vice Mayor and Councilman Robinson, I do agree that this is excellent, excellent presentation. I specifically, I know we many times we are focused on what the staff can do for us and when we're dealing with our constituents, but I really like the fact that we are investing the time to ensure that we are giving the staff what they need to be successful, whether that's education, the resources, and that they're not overworked. So I'm very much excited about this proposal, and thank you for all of the great work that you guys do.
Councilwoman O'Brien.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and I also want to thank Josh and the department and Alan for this extensive and exhaustive process. I have a couple of questions regarding the self-certification process. About how many folks do we have registered for self-certification?
Mayor, Councilwoman O'Brien, one moment while I find that answer on my sheet here. Mayor, Councilwoman O'Brien, right now we have 241 professionals registered and 374 permits issued this past year in the self-certification program.
Okay, and so the 347, do we know about what percentage that represents, roughly, of what could be done through self-certification?
No, I don't, Mayor, Councilwoman O'Brien, I don't have a percentage that would take away. What I certainly would acknowledge, and I think what you'll hear from Jason Blakely, who oversees our plan review section, that there's some opportunity to really promote and highlight that program. We feel like there's an opportunity for more individuals to participate in it. Over the years, that program has been expanded. There is a variety of processes and permits that you can now do via self-cert. I think we're one of the leaders in the entire country in that way. What I certainly would acknowledge, though, is that we need to get more people into the program and utilizing that.
Wonderful, and I appreciate that. Just out of curiosity, can a do-it-yourselfer go through self-cert?
Mayor, Councilwoman O'Brien, the program is for registered architects and engineers.
So I can if I'm a registered architect, maybe.
Correct.
All right, I appreciate that. A couple of the other things I want to talk about is that will you believe these processes will get our inspections done more quickly and get our permits done more quickly?
Mayor, Councilwoman O'Brien, you know, from an inspection standpoint, statistically, we're doing great. As I mentioned in the presentation, I think we're at a 97% turnaround time within 24 hours. What I certainly highlight in here and what I want to emphasize is that in keeping this process growing, we certainly understand that there are some opportunities to refine our processes, and I think that's why you see us committing to dozens of improvements. But what's critical, I think, to really see long-term results is to reinforce a culture of service, and that's why we're starting with this. If you think about our emphasis on this, I think you'll see hopefully less focus on culture because we have that well established, and maybe more focus on some changes to our processes when I come back to you next year. I'm confident that part of what we're able to provide right now is a variety of ways for you to engage with us, whether that's through self-cert, whether that's through our permit by inspection, whether through our all facilities program. There is a lot of ways in which you can engage with us that you can't necessarily do with other departments across the country. That certainly does require a lot of staff time. I think there's efficiencies that we can build into that with our existing staff. I think future changes that we might need to make are going to come as we continue this have a conversation and we map out these processes in more detail.
Mayor,
oh yes,
I'm
sir.
sorry, and Councilwoman O'Brien, I could real quick add the thing that with inspections and also the plan, I think part of what Josh highlighted in terms of education and being able to resolve some of those issues more quickly will help with inspections, where we get out there very quickly in terms of the inspections, 97% of them within 24 hours. It's being able to have experienced staff to look at something and say, yes, okay, that is okay, and we can allow that. And so that's part of that education component that will really help on the plan review and inspection side.
And I appreciate that. And as I explained to Josh before, as a former school board member, I think it is important for staff to have dedicated time, whether that's for professional development or for collaboration with the other departments that you work intricately with, water, streets, as well as fire, so that we are working together as a whole team instead of individual departments, sometimes in partnership together with the developer. So I do applaud that part of, I applaud the whole plan, but especially that additionally, because I think it will help to build relationships and make us a better working team. And one of the other things I ask you often, but I just want to do so here on the record, is that, if I can't, if I want to not stand in line sometimes for DMV, right, I go to the private person that does the title registration or can help me with my license, and I pay a higher fee. Where are we at in the process of maybe looking at having a qualified vendor list where if somebody gets in a pinch, not maybe necessarily because of what we're doing, but their own time frames, could they possibly have a private company to go to get the same services from the city?
Mayor, Councilwoman O'Brien, as I mentioned in the presentation, we have a robust set of contracts with private contractors right now that the staff utilizes day in and day out to address when we're maybe falling behind or needing extra attention to something. With respect to having opportunities to sort of maybe not visit us directly but go to a third party, I think one of the best examples that we have and one we're really celebrating is this relationship with Solar App. And I think if you think about where we're going as an industry, as just a society with technology, I really think that could be where we need to explore further, is what kind of relationships with organizations like Solar App that drastically reduce the amount of time associated with reviews for solar. Again, you get it, you're in and out in one day thanks to that relationship. I certainly hear you. I think we want to evaluate all opportunities as we look at our processes. I would certainly say that I want to lead and look at what are some opportunities that a combination of maybe folks outside of the city, but technology like Solar App that we could build on for other permit processes.
Wonderful. And then I do want to share that I was speaking with some folks about this plan and this policy meeting today, and they had talked about how thankful they were that you had put together the org charts, not just for your department, but for all of the departments that have input in the planning and development department. And they took those that idea to several of our sister cities and have requested that they follow likewise. So, and those cities are starting to do that. So kudos to you, because I think it once again proves that relationships are incredibly important in what we do in the city. And while Zoom and some technologies can make it a little bit more convenient, it's not always the most productive way to do it. So thank you for that. Thank you, Vice Mayor, for your leadership on this, and to all the council members who have made input into this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Just a couple other thoughts. I was remiss for not mentioning fire. I know you're an important component of building safety, so I apologize for that. I think what might help is, I know you want to do this on a yearly basis, but I think with some of the industry, if you could look at quarterly meetings with them just to talk about certain issues, whether it's inspections or plan review or standard plans. I know when I was the director, we used to meet routinely with the home builders and multifamily and Valley Partnership. And so if you can make yourself available, and it's not necessarily the planning director, it may be they need to talk to the fire marshal or they need to talk to water. And that's my second thought. This isn't just planning and development. I mean, you are the lead when it comes to issuing building permits. And I think the quicker we can issue the building permits, we really do help with issues like affordable housing and getting our shelters built and making sure that we're building commercial for economic development and other offices and things like. It's important that we try to get the permits out as quickly as possible, always keeping safety in mind. But I do think it's very important that the other departments step up and recognize, even though planning and development is the lead, you guys are important too. What you do is important. And when they call and they need your assistance, I hope you're available to help them. I know that we heard some criticism. I think you handled it with how our relationship between planning and development and water services were going with regards to water meters. And I think you guys have really stepped up and addressed that. But I did attend one of the listening sessions and that did come up. So I think it's critical that we all work together, all the departments, because we do provide that vital service. And right now, affordable housing is a critical issue for the city. And I really do believe, even with all these amendments we're making with ADUs and parking, getting building permits out through the door fairly quickly makes all the difference in the world, because those developers are riding along with interest rates, and the longer they have to wait for us to permit something, the cost of housing can go up. So we're all really a part of this important issue of addressing affordable housing. But I do think if you can maybe look at routine meetings with all the different industry leaders, I think that would be helpful, because they may have some suggestions. Clearly, I don't want us ever to forget about building safety. I used to always say that when people are running out of a building and the firefighters are running in to protect that building, we want to make sure our firefighters are safe too as they run through that door. So I think it's critical that we look at that and really partner with our industry leaders. And again, doing this yearly is great, but I think maybe if you could look at it more frequently, that might be helpful. And then the other thought is, I know that appointments are probably the way to go, but the problem is if you make an appointment with planning and development, can you make sure that there are other departments may be available, recognizing that the issue might really be not planning and development, but it might be fire, it might be water, it might be streets. And so somehow, if you can really collaborate and make sure that is happening. I know when I was director, we didn't have appointments. People just came in and they would grab people, hey, by the way, can I talk to you as well? So if we can make sure we're having that open dialogue with other departments, even though they may make an appointment with planning and development, if the other departments can make themselves accessible, I would appreciate that. I think, again, that would help and go a long way. So appreciate everything you're doing. Of course, everyone knows my favorite department is planning and development, so sorry to everyone else. But I do think you guys do terrific work, and I'm really very happy to see you step up and really try to address issues that we've been hearing about. So thank you again. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. She loves all the departments, though. We just want to be very clear. Well, thank you for the very exciting update. I want to acknowledge that Bloomberg Philanthropies helped assist us on this update, so thank you to Rose and the Bloomberg team. And we'll continue to take steps to move this forward, including as soon as tomorrow, we will vote on some on-call assistance that can help sort of force magnify what our staff is already doing. You mentioned solar app. We have actually gotten some national attention for how many solar installs we've gotten through that program and put up as a model for other cities who want to move forward on helping people reduce their energy bills and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I think this is important for a variety of different things. This is real money for folks, whether you're doing an addition on your home or you're a small business trying to reuse an existing building. It helps move our city forward, and appreciate the commitment for this to be an ongoing process. I too have heard about the org charts being so very popular, so that we may have discovered a best practice for the entire city, and it's just nice to see who works where with whom and what their current processes are. I think during COVID, we got a lot of things online, and that's something we want to continue. There are some people who love the face-to-face meetings, but for others, they would rather just be able to do as much as possible from home. I'm a big fan of the mobile inspections where they're appropriate, and appreciate that. So thank you so much. Seeing no final comments, I think we are ready then for the next item. Thank you for the important update, and please keep us posted. We next move to item 2, which is the tree and shade plan update. Want to thank the Office of Heat Response and Mitigation for leading this planning effort with the support of staff across many departments and community organizations. A trend I have today, I want to thank Bloomberg Associates, who helped us achieve this comprehensive plan in a very timely fashion. So thank you to Jacob and Adam and their team. It's exciting to see this draft of Shade Phoenix and present it to our residents for their thoughts and ideas. It is the time of year when we recognize even a sliver of shade makes a difference, and we see people hiding behind a traffic signal to just get a little bit of shade. This plan is much bigger than that and looks across many, many city departments. We are looking at a host of options, from federal grants to plant trees to our exciting upcoming Sombra shade projects in partnership with Bloomberg and local artists. And we had huge enthusiasm from our local artists who wanted to help with artistic shade. And of course, we've been hard at work on this new master plan draft to guide our long-term strategies around shade in Phoenix. The team presenting today worked hard to ensure the 37 strategies to expand shade are specific and measurable and responsive to everything we've heard from our residents over the last several years. Much of this is inspired by the council's signing of American Forest Tree Equity Pledge back in 2021. We were the first city to do so. That inspiration helped us include strategies that support all neighborhoods to achieve meaningful shade coverage, something that is particularly important during our hot summers. The plan is very intentional about increasing both trees and manufactured shade in areas that need it most to maximize the impact for our neighborhoods, including areas of high pedestrian activity like our transit corridors. The plan represents $50 million in already allocated dollars, 25,000 new trees, and 500 shade structures. It's important for our health and safety of our residents and helps Phoenix be a city that moves towards our vision of the most sustainable desert city in the world. I am especially pleased that this plan isn't just about how many trees we'll plant and shade structures we'll build on city property. It includes how neighborhoods can benefit, business owners can contribute, and how we'll work to create job pathways to get more people involved in sustaining our urban canopy. A connection to the last presentation, we're also using our codes, such as the Walkable Urban Code, to get more shade in our communities. I want to thank everyone who worked hard to bring this plan forward. We've had a trend when Dr. Hondola presents, it always rains and is cold. So we I don't know, we have broken that today, but it does feel very relevant to be doing shade with the temperatures where they are now. So I will turn to our Director of Heat Response and Mitigation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council members. We're honored to be here with you, and thank you for that generous introduction and excellent synopsis of the plan. I'm very pleased to be joined by Deputy Parks and Recreation Director Scott Coughlin and Deputy Street Transportation Director Jesse Duarte, who will later in this presentation showcase some of their department's actions that are related to achieving the vision. And as you alluded to, Mayor, this has been a team effort to bring this plan to you today. We're so appreciative of input that we've had from you and your colleagues on City Council in many conversations over the past months and years. We've learned an incredible amount from our colleagues in 32 different city departments, our network of dozens of local, regional, and state partners, We want to especially acknowledge the voluntary contributions of members of the city's public advisory boards and commissions that provide input on these topics, and members of the general public who have taken a survey, attended a workshop, added a comment to an online news story about trees and shade, all of which have contributed to our thinking. The logos on the slides here acknowledge my colleagues from Parks and Streets, but also some of our key external partners, including partners at the State Department of Forestry and Fire Management, our thought partners at Bloomberg Associates and American Forests, and our funders and thought partners at the U.S. Forest Service, who are responsible for a significant injection of resources into this plan. And finally, before we get into the content, I would like, Mayor, to give a special shout out to our team in the HEAT office that has been working very hard with our colleagues in other departments to bring this document forward. Thank you to my teammates. Mayor, as you alluded to, we are here to talk to you about a resource that the community really cares about, a resource that is, as you alluded to, top of mind this time of year, but one that is really vital here year-round. It's vital for people who are walking around our city, vital for people who are using our transportation system, vital for people who are waiting at an intersection, vital for people who are making a decision about visiting a restaurant and seating outside, vital for people who are taking an essential break while performing outdoor work, and vital for people who are thinking about where to take their children on a hot summer day for safe outdoor recreation. And that resource, of course, is shade. Today, we are presenting the first draft of a new Shade Phoenix plan, a comprehensive action plan to maintain and expand built and natural shade in Phoenix. This plan will expand and build upon the 2010 Tree and Shade Master Plan, which for the past 15 years has been a primary policy tool related to tree and shade initiatives in the city. Why do we need a new plan? Well, a lot has changed in the 15 years since that last document was passed. I'd argue that some of our principles and priorities remain as they were in 2010, but there are also some new ones. We'd argue that we need a new plan to better inform our program and policy development. We need a better policy tool to guide our day-to-day decision-making. We think our partners can benefit from and be energized by a new plan. We think it'll help us compete for more money from federal agencies and other partners out there. And we think it's important to tell the public the full story of what's happened since 2010 and have a meaningful conversation with the public about where we are going. And with your leadership, Mayor and Council members, we have made some really, really significant strides to improve shade coverage in Phoenix. This new plan captures and synthesizes where we are today, and we hope you agree builds a better pathway for where we are going. It's intuitive that shade is beneficial to us. Why is it so beneficial? This diagram, which is from our Office of Arts and Culture's Let's Talk Heat booklet, educational booklet, shows different temperature measurements between the shade and sun. And there are some familiar terms on here, like air temperature. You can see there might be a minor difference between sunny and shaded environments. Surfaces in the sun are certainly hotter than those in the shade. But I'd like to draw your attention to this perhaps less familiar term in the box, the radiant temperature. This describes the net heat load on the human body, and as you can see, it is markedly reduced in the shade. On a hot Phoenix day like today, the net heat load on the body in the shade is approximately 30 degrees lower than it would be in the sun. And another way to think about this, on a day like today, when it's approaching 110 outside, if we're in the shade today, that's like being in the sun in April or in May on a day when it's perhaps 90 degrees. We can change the experience by orders of months by moving into the shade. Leading scholars and professional societies are calling for action by all levels of government to do a better job in providing shade because of these significant benefits it has for our health and our quality of life and our economic activity. In Nature, one of the world's leading scientific journals, last year, shade was called an essential solution for cities. An academic study the year prior found that shade is largely missing from local government plans, and professional societies like the American Psychological Association are saying that we need change. We need change to policy. We need change to programs. We need change to the infrastructure of our cities to do a better job protecting people. And those experts are fine, and we respect their opinion, but the best experts that we can think of are the residents of Phoenix. No large city in the U.S. experiences higher temperatures and persistent sun quite like we do. We have learned from our residents to inform this plan, and we've learned from them through several different mechanisms. We've learned through the village planning committees, through our Environmental Quality and Sustainability Commission, through the Regional Urban Forestry Roundtable, through a public-facing innovation challenge hosted with our Office of Innovation, through community workshops, and through an online questionnaire that now has more than 1,400 responses, including several hundred that have come in just the past couple of weeks, perhaps because it's getting warm. And what does the public say? They say there is not enough built shade or trees in Phoenix. 90% of residents to the questionnaire thus far have made this claim. And of those 90%, many say that there's a severe shade deficit. 59% say there's a severe lack of trees, and 39% say that there's a severe lack of built shade in the city. We've also paid close attention to the formal recommendation from the city's Environmental Quality and Sustainability Commission, which is the public advisory board that is most closely related to the topics in the tree and shade planning efforts. Of formal recommendations made by EQSC in recent years, I'm pleased to report that with your leadership, we've already achieved several of them, and that includes reestablishment of an interdepartmental working group, the hiring of a full-time tree and shade administrator who's with us in the room today, and the prioritization of our programs to focus on pedestrians, transit users, and heat-vulnerable people as captured by the Tree Equity Pledge that the mayor alluded to. There are other EQSC recommendations that we are still thinking about and working on, and that includes the question of how we're going to do a better job incorporating green stormwater infrastructure into our city streetscape, how we're going to keep improving our Cool Corridor program that you'll hear about in a few minutes, how we'll publicly report on tree and shade progress, and how we can do a better job of incorporating the concept of equity throughout citywide tree and shade initiatives. I've really enjoyed hearing from city staff through this process. We've, I think, done a great job of leveraging the professional expertise of city staff from many different departments, and we've learned a lot from them. We've learned that tree and shade management is highly decentralized right now across different departments. 12 different departments manage trees here at the city, and they each have a unique approach to do so. That introduces some challenges. We consistently hear about contract difficulties, managing contracts, ensuring compliance, and inconsistent performance. Our colleagues on city staff have told us that they feel like there's not adequate funding in all cases to replace or add trees, particularly when unplanned costs emerge. For example, when storms unfortunately rip out trees during our monsoon season. Our colleagues, like the public and like our thought partners at other agencies, have told us there are real workforce needs. We need to expand and improve our internal and external skilled workforce. We need more built shade. And like members of the public, staff here at the city perceive conflicts between our tree goals and our water-related goals. We've complemented what we've learned from the community with state-of-the-art analysis of the most recent and comprehensive tree and shade data resources that we could find. And we're going to give just a few highlights of that analysis, which is more formally detailed in the full plan you have. Here's a map of tree canopy coverage throughout the city. And the middle of the road census tract, the median, has 10.9% tree canopy cover today in Phoenix, excluding the area covered by buildings. But variability is the name of this story. We have a tremendous range between the census tracts that have the least and the most. The census tracts that have the least have an average of 2 to 3% tree canopy coverage today. In some cases, those are desert and agricultural areas where we might not expect high tree coverage, but in other cases, they are neighborhoods where our neighbors are living, experience very low tree canopy coverage today. The highest census tracts are in excess of 25%, so it's more than a tenfold difference between parts of the city that have the most and the least today. 75% of Phoenicians live in a census tract with less than 15% tree canopy, and 15% is what American Forests currently recommends for desert cities like ours. So we have work to do. In addition to the community-wide data, we've been also focusing on tree and shade efforts on city property. The larger graph on this figure shows what our tree planting pace has been over the past 10 years, and you can see that we're pretty regularly around 3,000 trees per year since 2017, many of which have been planted by the departments represented to my left. Updating the city's formal tree inventory is a priority action proposed in the plan, so we have a more accurate total count of our current assets. And Mayor and council members, I absolutely agree with the spirit we even heard in the previous presentation that we need to lead by example and pay close attention, very close attention to our public resources, but we do want to provide for you and the public critical context about the geography of the city. The city of Phoenix land areas where we could plant trees account for only about 8% of the total footprint of the city. So while we do need an excellent plan for city property, community-wide success will require a larger focus. And as you alluded to, Mayor, this plan strives to do both. And we'd like to highlight for you that in addition to the great tree canopy data, we also have a comprehensive, first-of-its-kind shade analysis for the city, thanks to our partners at UCLA and ASU. This allows us to be even more strategic in understanding where our needs are to provide more shade and how to address them. And to give you just a peek at the data, on the image here, the pink shapes are buildings right here around council chambers, and the black areas are where a computer model projects that shade would be cast on the first day of summer at noon on the left-hand side. We're extracting pieces of this data. For example, we're looking at how much shade is there on sidewalks, and at noon, citywide, we currently project about 17%. We can look at this at different times of day. The figure on the right shows at 6 p.m., and of course we have more shade. We almost double the amount of shade provided on city sidewalks at 6 p.m. relative to noon. These metrics are reasonable, but compared to some standards that are shown in MAG's Active Transportation Plan Toolbox, we have work to do. The guidelines in the Active Transportation Plan Toolbox, which an ASU team that I had the privilege to be a part of helped establish, show minimum recommendation of 20%, a good benchmark of 30%, and excellent shade of 60%. We desire to increase shade in our highly used pedestrian corridors up to that excellent benchmark. And I'm excited to share that we're working with many partners to interpret all these data, make them digestible and accessible, and use them to guide our programs. And one of those key partners is American Forests, as you alluded to, Mayor. To remind the council, in April 2021, Phoenix City Council adopted a memorandum of understanding with American Forests to pursue tree equity, which was described in that MOU as a future in which all Phoenix neighborhoods reach a minimal standard of tree canopy cover that is feasible and appropriate. And we're working closely with American Forests on 6 different thematic areas to pursue that vision, but also working with them on data tools, including their publicly accessible Tree Equity Score map and Tree Equity Score Analyzer, of which you can see a screenshot on the right. So we are armed with a lot of information from our analysis, from the community, from our dialogue with you, Mayor and council members. Let's look forward. With all of these data resources and community wisdom, the Shade Phoenix Plan is proposing a vision of a future where all residents and visitors to Phoenix experience the benefits of trees and built shade throughout the city. And it's anchored around 6 core values that reflect the priorities we've heard from stakeholders. The first value is to focus on people first. The actions in this draft plan are targeted to keep people safe and on areas where shade can have the greatest impact on human health and well-being, with a focus on vulnerable populations. The second value is to recognize that shade from built and natural sources is a critical infrastructure and resource provided to residents by public and private assets. The third value is to lead with an environmental justice and equity lens to help address historical inequities. The fourth value is to respect the unique desert landscape and heritage of the Sonoran Desert. The fifth is that collaboration is essential within and beyond city government. And the sixth is that we need to go beyond the status quo. We must innovate and do a little bit of risk-taking to change the current trajectory to realize the community's vision. With that foundation, we've worked with our city colleagues to identify 37 specific actions that will work to achieve a future that achieves the vision. And those actions address 4 broad strategies that you can see on the slide here: community education and empowerment, adding shade, preserving and maintaining existing shade, and evaluating and institutionalizing the process that achieve the 3 former strategies. Collectively, the actions in this plan, as you alluded to, Mayor, represent at least $50 million in investment that will make our community better in the next 5 years. And that is a significant investment, perhaps the biggest in tree and shade efforts in the city's history. But we do want to acknowledge that this is just a step forward. It will not get us to the finish line of that vision. Our interpretation, as we look at the data, is that achieving tree equity and meeting the community's vision and needs for shade will require resources beyond the scope of this plan. Working with colleagues in budget and research and other departments, we're working on different analyses to ensure that the next version of this plan will provide to you projections about what the scale and timeline for additional resources might be. But we are indeed quite enthusiastic about what we can achieve with what you've already committed and led us to invest, and now we're excited to tell you about that. What are we going to spend money on? We're going to spend money on new trees, new built shade, maintenance and workforce and programming, roughly proportional to the numbers that you can see on the slide here with our best estimates. Where's the money coming from? A combination of sources, including the general fund and capital improvement program, grants and American Rescue Plan allocations that you've made, council members, and the general obligation bond as passed by voters last fall. And which communities will benefit from these investments? Those that have lower tree and shade canopy coverage today. The graph on the left with the green bars shows how tree canopy varies throughout the city when we divide up the city into different income groups. And today, wealthier neighborhoods have more tree and shade coverage. So the actions in this plan take the counter approach to that current pattern by overinvesting in low, moderate, and middle income communities. This is the pattern that we think we need to see to meet the tree equity pledge that was adopted in April 2021, meet the demand for tree and shade equity we hear from the community, and live up to the values of this plan. We'd now like to tell you about some of the actions in the plan. As I alluded to earlier, we're incredibly grateful to liaisons from 32 different departments who have informed this plan, including those from the 12 different departments that manage trees. We found it very interesting and fascinating to learn about tree and shade processes that engage multiple departments simultaneously. For example, processes that involve both neighborhood services and planning and development. We've learned very clearly that the majority of our tree and shade assets are held by street transportation, parks and recreation, public transit, and aviation. And I am quite delighted and thankful that colleagues from 2 of those departments are going to highlight some of their efforts in this plan, starting with Scott Coughlin from Parks and Recreation. Thank you, Scott.
Mayor, members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to present on the tree planting initiatives that the forestry team has been involved in and will continue to support in the new Shade Phoenix plan. Over the last 10 years, the Parks and Recreation Department has planted more than 15,000 trees in parks and in cooperation with our Streets Department Cool Corridor program. This demonstrates the department's commitment to enhancing green spaces and promoting environmental sustainability. Our tree planting strategy is planned in alignment with each park's master plan, which outlines the designated area in that park where trees can be planted, irrigation requirements, and archaeological concerns. This ensures that each tree is planted in the right location and contributes to the overall health of the tree and function of the park. The selection of tree species is determined using the Arizona Municipal Water Users List, specifically low water use trees, and adheres to the right tree, right place policy. This approach guarantees that the tree species chosen are well suited for our local environment. Along with the tree planting initiatives, these trees will need to be maintained. And it's important to highlight the efforts of our forestry team. The team consists of 32 members who are responsible for maintaining approximately 100,000 plus trees in parks and along major arterials and feeder streets throughout the city of Phoenix. This team also provides a 24-hour response to requests from the water, streets, aviation, police, and public transit departments, and is responsible for responding to storm cleanup in streets and parks. Through a program that is arranged through the Arizona Community Tree Council, we have been able to create an ISA certified arborist program. The Arizona Community Tree Council is an authorized provider of the ISA certified arborist certification. In return for using a parks facility as a training location 1 day a week for 8 weeks, the ACTC provides free arborist certification training to 3 forestry staff and offers continuing education credits for the certified staff at no cost to the city. This lends to the credibility of the work performed by the skilled and capable staff, and also provides training for staff that do not have the training funds to do that. I would now like to turn it over to Jesse Duarte with Streets.
Mayor and Council, I will briefly talk about street transportation role in the Shade Phoenix plan. First of all, I'm going to talk about landscape citywide. In 2023, street maintenance transitioned to 30 million square feet of landscape inventory to be maintained from quarterly to monthly. The inventory included medium islands and areas mostly on major streets, but also included inventory on minor collectors and interior streets in the city network. The annual budget for this program is about $3.2 million. The next one we'll talk about is cool corridors and our tree replacement program. Cool corridors. We currently have about $1.4 million for the cool corridor program. The program was established in 2021, and to date, we have planted 2,945 trees. This fiscal year, the contractors are planting approximately about 135 trees per month. We have a total of 4 contractors working the program. We are working with both the heat response and mitigation team and Parks and Recreation team to identify new locations for the trees. The next thing we'll talk about is the tree replacement program. We replace dead trees, dead or missing trees in the citywide maintenance right-of-way. We have approximately 392,000 for this program. We evaluate the locations and select the trees based on the right tree, right place policy. We currently replace approximately about 700 trees per year. Next one we're going to talk about is the shade structure program. Street Transportation Design and Construction Management, DCM, division is working with the Heat Response and Mitigation and Innovation Office to build 25 shade structures incorporating local art in highly used public right-of-ways. The program has about $3 million budget. The design is at 60 to 80% and is scheduled to start in fiscal year 25-26. And with that, I'll hand that over back to David.
Thank you very much, Scott and Jesse. We'd like to wrap up by highlighting a couple of actions led by other departments as well as our own team in the HEAT office. We are very proud of and impressed by efforts in the public transit department. They've added more than 1,800 shade shelters at city bus stops since 2010, and we're now at 75% of city bus stops with a shade structure. Public transit will continue to install at least 80 structures per year, and they project that shade will be provided at every city bus stop where it's feasible within the next 10 years. Truly remarkable. We also want to celebrate the leadership of our Office of Arts and Culture as one of 8 national winners in the Bloomberg Philanthropies Public Art Challenge, which awarded the city $1 million for innovative public arts projects for shade. The particular project that was referenced at the start of the presentation, called Sombra, will produce temporary public art-oriented shade installations in public space, and 9 dynamic and inspiring local artists have already been commissioned for this work. And this is just one of several ways that art is being integrated into our shade efforts. And to wrap up by highlighting a couple of programs that our office is leading, again, a huge shout out to teammates, including some of our newest hires that are making these programs succeed. We have 3 tree and shade grant programs focused on schools and neighborhoods. By the end of this planned cycle, we project that 10,000 trees will be added in low, moderate, and middle income neighborhoods through these grant programs. We've already done 1,000 this spring with American Rescue Plan Act funding, and council members, we've seen some of you out at those events. We will construct 47 shade structures at schools, the first few of which have just been completed, including the one you see on the slide there. And part of our Inflation Reduction Act award from the U.S. Forest Service is to invest directly in community members with a paid tree steward program as part of our broader efforts to create and expand pathways for careers in urban forestry, a need we heard very clearly from the community and our colleagues at the city. We are very glad to be at today's milestone for a direction-setting dialogue with you all, but the work is not done. With your guidance today, we will begin our summer work to create performance indicators and timelines for each of the actions that will appear in the final plan. We will be developing site-specific shade targets. We are eagerly awaiting the results of a research study from our colleagues in the Budget and Research Department about landscape maintenance and other topics. We are committed to additional community and stakeholder engagement ahead of the final plan, welcoming additional feedback. We will hear from you today and in the coming weeks, and look forward to being back in the fall. I want to again thank my colleagues up here today and across all departments who have worked so hard to put this plan and its programs together. Thank the many members of the public who are engaged and interested in these efforts. And Mayor and Council members, we appreciate your leadership on this topic that's so important today and throughout the entire year here in Phoenix. Thank you.
Thank you. Exciting to see what we've accomplished so far and what is possible with additional investment. Council members. Councilwoman O'Brien.
Thank you so much for today's presentation of the draft format, and I look forward to what we'll have in the fall. There's a couple of things that we've talked about in briefings that I want to make sure that we put on the record, and I have asked you all to make sure we understand what it takes to take care of our trees, the water, the maintenance. It's wonderful that we're investing all these dollars into ensuring that we would have shade. I start looking for shade when I'm walking outside probably in April, and my motto in the summer is we'll walk for shade when I'm parking my car. So, but it's important that we have that cost. It's not enough to have the money to plant the trees. I also, you talked about 1,000 trees that have been planted, and we've talked a little bit about a management program, like how will we know what trees are still thriving and what problems we have. Early on in my, this first term, there were some trees planted in one of my communities, and they didn't last for very long, and that was very frustrating to my community. So I want to make sure those are, I know that we've talked about it, but want to make sure folks know that we've talked about it, and you intend to put that in the plan and continue that community and stakeholder engagement. So thank you very much for all the hard work you've done so far, all three departments. I also would very much like to see, as I read through the whole plan, that we have so many departments that take care of landscaping. Would like to see if that could possibly be under one area so that it's not so scattered. I know that even I get a little frustrated in trying to figure out who's supposed to take care of what as I drive through the city. So thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thank you to the team for all of your hard work, and then also a special shout out to North Glen Square and District 5, to St. Clair, and to all of our constituents in that area. I believe in that area we've been able to plant a little bit over 200 trees, so we're very excited of not. Yes, on all of the great work, and yes, on the shade plan, and yes, on how this is gonna make us a better city and being able to have this shade plan, but also how this has brought community together and has definitely driven out the leadership of a lot of our neighborhood leaders to take some leadership, to take some ownership over their communities. We did the same thing over in Maryville with one of our newest neighborhood associations. So shout out as well to Amy and to the group out there, where we've also planted a little bit over 200 trees. So I think that this plan is amazing. Dr. Handula, wishing you the very best with what's coming, and looking forward to supporting everyone, and excited to see what our city is going to look like a few years from now. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say I think the plan as presented is very dynamic. I love the partnerships throughout the different departments. When we met about this, I talked a little bit about ensuring the continuality of the plans, making sure that they're properly maintained, and I'm grateful to see that that is incorporated in this report. I'm specifically looking forward to seeing the results of some of the next steps, including the budget and research study, to determine how best we are ensuring that these investments continue to be placed in the right communities. We talked a little bit about how to better reach some of our lower income communities to ensure that those that need the trees and the additional shade are actually responsive to that information. So I just wanted to say I think it's a great first, very dynamic plan, and I look forward to seeing the results. So, job well done.
Any? Wonderful. Well, thank you. The City of Phoenix has been recognized for leadership by a bunch of national publications, American Forests and more, but we know we have a lot of work to do in a lot of neighborhoods that need more shade. So thank you for this important first step. We are adjourned.
That is good for all of us. We can't have a lawless society, and I understand that there are other problems the city needs to address, but keeping our families and our visitors safe has to be number one for the council. And I know since I've been on, there has been a change of attitude, and I hope our men and women who are on the streets and in the uniform understand that we do support them, and we know we need them. So that's important to me.
And proving that every person, even people